Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Women in Motorsports program. We are here to preview the F1 Academy race weekend in China and also recap the Iron Dames performance at the 12 Hours of Sebring. I'm Ben Schneider hosting this episode in place of Joe San Diego. We have Emily Sharp joining us as always and making her Women in Motorsport debut. Isha Bourgeois is joining us here as well. As always, I want to give a special shout out to our Patreon supporters, Colin Deschelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. Thank you so much for continuing to invest in what we do here at the Grid Network. And if you like what you see this evening, you can consider joining them through the link in the description box below. Or if you'd rather make a one-time contribution to us instead, you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below, or hit us on YouTube through Super Chat or Super Thanks as well. Now let's get started with the first race for F1 Academy coming up shortly here. We'll have the debut of the new race lineup process. Maya Weug qualified on pole position, but she will lead the field in race 2. In race 1, she'll start 8th thanks to the new top 8 qualifying system inverting the starting lineup for the first race this weekend. So starting on pole in race 1 will be Nina Gademan, the Alpine-supported driver. The difference in lap time from qualifying between the two was 0.879 seconds, so almost a full second behind the pole position time set by Maya Weug there. Isha, since you'll be writing for F1 Academy on our website, gridnetworktv.com this year, we'll give you the opportunity to go first on this one. How challenging will it be for the top 4 starters to keep the second half of the inverted grid behind them?
Thank you so much. It definitely will be challenging for the 4 of them to able to keep the lead once the green flag is flown. I feel like they will be able to do it as long as if they quote unquote work together to able to extend that lead, they'll do amazing. But we can't negate the fact that Doriane Pin and Maya Weug, as you said before, they're showing great in practice and in qualifying. But we also have to remember that these women are here for a reason, and I believe that they can excel and succeed with this new reverse grid format.
You know, Isha, you bring up a great point. And before I go any further, welcome officially to the Women in Motorsports program. We're excited to have this conversation with you and check out all of your work online on the gridnetworktv.com as well. But I didn't even consider about the thought of the slower pace cars working together. So that certainly could be an interesting element to watch for this in this race. To your point, Ben, our current leading car at the beginning of race 1 is going to be Gademan. She was about close to a second off of the pace of our leaders. Of course, we already talked about Doriane Pin. I think we're going to be talking about her a lot during this program and a lot throughout the season as well. I think it's going to be, to Isha's point, incredibly difficult for these slower cars to maintain their placement over the course of the next 13 laps in race 1. We have the benefit of there being no DRS on these Formula 4 cars, so that should be the great equalizer, if you will, to kind of give them a better chance to hold on to those places. But I mean, I also want to mention that it's not just Nina Gademan that was off of the pace. It's also going to be, Joanne Chianti and Elma Felbermeyer, who also in practice and in qualifying close to a second off of pace as well. So there's definitely a gap there. There's definitely going to be the Doriane Pins charging, trying to get up to the front. There's definitely going to be a Maya Weug and Chloe Chambers, another driver to look out for. So I think the key word going into race 1 is going to be interesting. So again, we're just going to have to kind of see how this goes. And I think that will be a great indicator for the rest of the season.
Well, it's similar to Formula 2. The first race of the weekend offers fewer points, 10 to the winner, and only the top 8 will finish in the points. And then, of course, for the main race, 25 for the winner, and then the traditional point system all the way down through 10th place, picking up the final point. Maya Weug, of course, claimed the bonus points for pole position. She just edged out Doriane Pin, as you both mentioned. Very strong entry herself and expected to be a championship favorite this year. She qualified second, and Alba Larson qualified third in Tommy Hilfiger sponsored car. So, Emily, we'll go to you first for this second question here. Of those 3 drivers, who do you anticipate will be the highest finishing in the first race?
Well, first and foremost, what a surprise to see Alba Larson up in that top 3 spot after qualifying. She is making her F1 Academy debut. Of course, she made her Formula 4 debut earlier this year at the Formula Winter Series back in January. So she is gaining experience in her Formula career, but certainly early on still, and definitely a surprise. But again, we've already talked about Doriane Pin prior to the start of the season, and we're going to keep talking about her. I really believe, going back to what we chatted about last week, she's coming in with a chip in her shoulder. She wants to make this her season that she probably felt robbed from last year. So she was the leader in free practice. She came really close to making a good charge on Maya Weug's pole time, but she had a really unfortunate lockup in her last opportunity to get a run in qualifying. So I think she's going to be, to answer your question, Ben, I think she's going to be probably the one that our audience and audiences tuning into the race can expect to have the most successful campaign to get back up to the front. But Maya Weug and Chloe Chambers are also going to be there. And who knows, Alba Larson, what a great outing from her initially in her car. So we're just going to have to watch and see.
Yeah, definitely 100%. I am such a big Doriane Pin fan. She was such a great showstopper last year, especially with last year's champion, Abby Pulling. She was able to go out front first, but is still able to stay competitive with the dominance that Abby Pulling was pulling. Sorry, that Abby Pulling was going for last year. Doriane Pin was able to keep up the pace, other than that that unfortunate lockup. In qualifying and in practice. She was P1 in practice and was able to still qualify P2. I feel like she is the one to watch this season.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Nina Gaiman, who will lead the field in race 1. Like I mentioned, she's the highest finishing wildcard driver in F1 Academy last year in 2024. Alpine, of course, supported the 2024 champion, Abby Pulling. She won PTC Cup rookie honors last year, second in class at 22, 24 hours of his older, and picked up a rookie podium in Thruxton during her 2024 campaign in the F4 British Championship. Isha, I just pulled up an article from F1 Academy's website, and there's a direct quote from Nina that says, "My goal is to win in race 1." Do you think that's a realistic possibility? Could she be a surprise winner, and does that set the tone for her championship campaign in 2025?
Yes, with this new format of the reverse grid, I feel like Nina can definitely win if she keeps her head down and she sorry, I lost my place in my notes. She's definitely able to keep her, if she keeps her head down, she can definitely win. She was able to slide under the returning drivers in free practice into P5. I don't think she's at the level of other competitors like Doriane Pin, Chloe Chambers, and Maya Weug. But if she's able to keep her head down in the first race, she can do great. This is also the first race of the 2025 season, so we'll see more. We'll definitely see more from her from this weekend and future weekends to come. But let's see how she fares as a full Formula One Academy driver.
Yeah, and to your point, Isha, anything is possible in racing. We don't know what to expect yet with these reverse grids. I think we all have our own preconceived notions going into what to expect here. But again, in Formula One, the great equalizer is weather. In Formula 4 cars, the great equalizer is the lack of a DRS system in those rear wings. So these slower cars, if they work together, certainly can hold off the, again, the Doriane Pins, the Maya Weugs, the Chloe Chambers, who are going to be charging, trying to get back up to the front. But to look at the broader picture, going back to your original question, Ben, do we think that this is a potential championship campaign? I'm going to be the negative Nancy again and say probably not. I mean, even if Gaidman is able to successfully hold off and maintain this lead into race 1, it's going to be a numbers game. We've already mentioned it. The second race is going to have the traditional point scoring system. So the faster cars are going to have the advantage of gaining more points out of that race. And then they're going to play the math game to pick up whatever points they can for spots 1 through 8 in race 1. So anything is possible, but I'm thinking that the original drivers that we predicted going into the season to have a strong championship campaign are probably going to end up in the spots we're predicting them to be in.
Yeah, definitely no surprise who's starting first and second for the second race. I think those were the top two, but everybody was picking to be their championship favorites heading into this year. But just outside the podium or top 3 from qualifying, if you will, Chloe Chambers qualified 4th and made some news again this offseason. Red Bull again sponsoring third driver. Red Bull Ford will be on her livery and fire suit this year. And of course, that's a new partnership we'll see with their Formula One team starting next year in 2026. For an American-based car manufacturer was a big presence in motorsports globally. Certainly a big deal to see them involved here in F1 Academy as well. She will start 5th for the first race and 4th for the second race, so the invert won't affect her all that much. Not a drastic change between races. But Emily, how big would a win this weekend in either race be for Chloe and for Red Bull and Ford, considering their partnership and Chloe also being an American driver on the grid?
It would be huge. I think it would be huge for multiple entities and stakeholders in this relationship. It would obviously be a great confidence booster for Chloe heading into this new season. It would obviously be a great confidence boost for Red Bull, who we've all kind of been speculating might be having some challenges heading into F1. Liam Lawson in his sprint race that was qualifying that happened earlier today as the time that we're filming this, clearly having struggles. And it's an exciting introduction to the Red Bull and Ford manufacturer partnership that we are going to be seeing this year as a brand partnership and then next year as a manufacturer partnership. So huge all around. The likelihood of a win happening, I think it's feasible. I think Chloe is coming into this season, returning back with Campos Racing. She's familiar with that team. She's returning to F1 Academy and as a race winner in this series. Granted, she's never raced at this track before, but she has a wealth of experience coming from F1 Academy, last season, W Series. So, we've historically seen these seasoned drivers, these seasoned ladies have a benefit against their competitors. So I think Chloe Chambers is one to watch this weekend and holistically as the season overall. Before we pass it to Isha, I really quickly just want to mention Leah Block. She had a really bad crash in free practice that completely annihilated her having a strong chance heading into this race. She's going to be starting at the back of the field, but overall, I think also one to watch this season. And then we also have Ella Lloyd, her debut into a full season of F1 Academy. She had a wild card run last year in Singapore. She's, of course, a McLaren development driver. So she has a great team backing her to give her a lot of wealth of knowledge going into this series. So I know we're not necessarily having our eyes on them for this particular race. She's starting in 11th for these two races, but overall heading into the series this year, definitely keep an eye out for those two drivers as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's so unfortunate to see Leah Block's unfortunate crash. I know I was on edge watching everything that's happened, but it's so great to see so many just American women and American drivers on the Formula One Academy grid. You got Courtney Crone, who is supported by Haas for Art Grand Prix. Chloe Chambers, and also of course Leah Block. And it's so great to see just more Americans on the Formula One Academy grid, especially with this Ford partnership. I feel like this would be more important when it comes to Miami or Las Vegas. Definitely in a home crowd, this partnership will definitely reverberize Ford as a manufacturer in the motorsports space. And I do feel like Chloe Chambers can win here in Shanghai, especially like you said, her being a race winner, her having more experience in Formula One Academy. I just would wait off to count this relationship until Miami and Vegas.
I don't know who's more cursed, the second Red Bull seat or the Williams mechanics with all the Rex and things that they've
Oh
had
dear.
to deal with.
Oh my.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Leah Block there. Hopefully she can bounce back, if not this weekend, later on in the year. Isha, thank you so much for joining us for the F1 Academy portion of the show. And for viewers who maybe are seeing you for the first time here on this program, where can they find your work on social media and otherwise?
Yeah, so I consistently post on TikTok and on Instagram at Silly Little Racing on both platforms. I'm also going to be writing for Formula One Academy here on Grit Network. I am a part of the F1 panel here as well, but I also am a part of chaosinthepaddock.com. I work on IndyCar, F1, and just general content for them. And it's so great to be here. And thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. And again, everyone go follow Isha's work all throughout the 2025 season. In the meantime, we're going to continue on with our show here tonight. So Emily, let's discuss the Iron Dames and how they performed at Sebring.
Yes, thank you so much, Ben. So let's just dive right in. The Sebring 12 Hours Respect the Bumps was last weekend. The Iron Dames, they were back in IMSA again for another season, and they came home 11th in their GTD class, tongue twister sometimes, and 40th overall in that particular race. Now, Michelle Gatting, Sarah Bovey, and Rachel Frey were all in the field sharing the driving duties. They overall had some great runs, no surprises, but they just barely missed out on that top 10, coming home in 11th. Now, their car was not up to pace all weekend, and of course, big news header going into the season, they switched to port. Now, compared to the Daytona Rolex 24, they finished 8th in class. Now, Ben, could the unique nature of Sebring and the track be a factor on why the Iron Dames were just not finding the pace overall compared to how they finished in Daytona?
Absolutely. And Sebring is a very tough circuit. Obviously, you mentioned Emily, respecting the bumps is a very important thing there. It's a very tough track, very tough characteristics. But I think when you couple that with the fact that IMSA is very competitive, GTD in particular is a very competitive class. And then you triple that with the fact that they're on an engine manufacturer change here with switching a Porsche in the offseason. I think just a combination of all those things, it's not too much of a surprise to see them a little bit further down the order this year. But I think as the season goes on, you might see them start to turn a corner a little bit and start to improve in their results.
Yeah, and absolutely. It's, to your point, very early on in the season. They have a lot of time to kind of work out this new car that they're experiencing. So, and a track that is historically very bumpy. So we're going to continue to watch that. Now moving on, they're going to be at Watkins Glen for the 6-hour endurance for their next race for the IMSA series. In a few weeks, Barcelona for the European Le Mans Championships opening race as well. They're going to be making their appearance there. Michelle Gating, Sarah Bovey, and Celia Martin will race that weekend at the European Le Mans series. Ben, the program has so many events and has such a big driver lineup compared to the first year of the program, 3 drivers. How promising is this program's growth? And they have won in wins. Is this a realistic expectation for them?
Yeah, maybe not in IMSA right now, just because of what I was just saying. Obviously with the engine change and all the different circumstances surrounding that program right now, but. This is a team that has won in the past, like you mentioned, and I think it's a very promising program, very successful program. We just spent a lot of time talking about F1 Academy and Doriane Pin and how highly regarded she is as a potential future talent in this sport, and not even future talent. She's here right now, and she's already proven what she can do behind the wheel of a race car. And I think a big reason for that, a big reason why she's in F1 Academy right now, is because of this program here with Iron Dames. So. It's been great to see this program continue to grow, and I have no doubt that it will continue to grow even further in the future here. So again, we'll see what they can do the rest of this season, but I think it's been a good run for them so far for sure.
Yeah, and not to sound like a broken record, very early on. So we will certainly be watching as they race in multiple of these series, including Doriane Pin and F1 Academy, a member of their team. So. Ben, to close this out, I'd like to pass it back over to you to wrap up our show this evening.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate that. And we'll close out with, I guess we can come up with a couple of shining moments here. we're taping this as a Truck Series race for NASCAR is going on right now. Obviously, we have F1 Academy this weekend, so we'll see who some of the standouts are here in just a couple of days. As for tonight, I guess I'll give it to Toni Breininger, and I'll say this about her. Obviously, I think we talked in this show before. It's been a common theme. Sometimes she hasn't been performing to the level of her teammates, particularly in ARCA, but I think in the limited starts she's had so far in trucks, of course, this is her first full-time year with Tricon Garage. I think she's picking up the pace a little bit here. Forgive me, I've been keeping an eye on the basketball, getting ready for the show tonight. So the truck race at Homestead's going on as we're taping this. So not sure entirely where she's running there right now, but she's got a very good team this year. Of course, Corey Heim is a tremendous talent. As far as I'm concerned, he should be racing on Sundays, but he's still racing with Tricon in the Truck Series this year and will be a championship favorite. So she's got the equipment to get the job done, and the sky will be the limit for her. And at least she's trying. At least she is continuing to put in the work and put in the effort and take those steps forward. And of course, on the marketing side of things, we know all the sponsorship she brings with brands like Celsius and Racing Canes, which is great for the sport as well. So solid start to the year for her. She just missed out on a top 20 finish at Las Vegas, finishing 21st. So hopefully she continues to take those steps forward and improve throughout the rest of the 2025 season.
Well, I know that I look forward to hearing you recap her performance this upcoming week, and obviously here on this program this time next week when you have some time to dedicate to viewing her when you're not watching the March Madness of it all. This might be a little long-winded, but bear with me about what my shining moment of the week is. Last week, we had a great discussion about Catherine Lake's performance and kind of the circus of it all that surrounded her stock car Cup Series debut. I had mentioned on this program that she has a podcast, Throttle Therapy, that if anyone wants to tune in, super interesting insight into her career as a driver and currently all of the different racing series that she's trying to undertake just in one season. But her guest this week, I thought would be who I would like to incorporate into our one shot moment. And she had on the legendary, the icon, Lyn St. James. Lyn St. James just celebrated her 78th birthday last week. And since we do, in my opinion, such a great job of talking about so many different racing series here on this program between stock car racing, IndyCar, obviously F1 Academy, Lyn St. James has touched all of those racing series and more, IMSA as well. And so I just want to encourage everyone to, if you take some time this week. I promise our show is not sponsored by Throttle Therapy, but tune in for a great conversation with Lyn St. James and Catherine Lake. Lyn is just such a, as I mentioned, an icon, a person that has just changed the landscape of racing in general, let alone a female racer. But she's been such an advocate for, inclusion in sports, and her story is just incredibly interesting. And I'll just tease a bit of the conversation with the inspiration for her to get behind the wheel and race fast cars was that she had seen an advertisement for Ford and feminism. And that was all that she saw and read. And that was what encouraged her to take a leap of faith into making this her entire life and world. So happy belated birthday to Lyn St. James. We're so grateful that you've been present, part of this culture and our community. And for myself, someone that is a inspiration for me to be, an advocate for more women to participate and be a fan, an athlete, and just come together and share our love for motorsports. So happy birthday, Lyn St. James, and you're my shining moment of the week and every day of the year.
I'm glad you brought both those things up. My men's bracket is completely busted. I had Louisville going to the Final Four, and they were out in the first round, so there's no hope there. But my women's bracket, I'm perfect so far, 13 for 13. So hopefully we stay perfect here and have a perfect first day at least. I'm already second guessing some of my picks for tomorrow's round of 64 games, but that's good for me, I guess. Shining moment on my end on the women's NCAA tournament. But I'm glad you brought that up, Emily. I'll give another shining moment as well to BJ McLeod, who's the owner of Live Fast Motorsports. He went on Jesse Punch's podcast this week and basically said that after the incident and after the race weekend, they had a conversation, they being BJ and Catherine was very apologetic, and BJ was very clear saying, look, when you're in this situation at this level of stock car racing, that cannot happen. You cannot make a mistake like that, trying to get out of the way and ultimately taking out Daniel Suarez, who potentially had a top 5 run going. And Catherine Legg's first response was, do you have his number? And as I mentioned on the show last week, she reached out to him, and BJ just sat back and said, you know what, even more respect to Catherine Legg for that. So again, I think there's something to be said for what she's commented about her debut as well. And, it has sparked the debate about the approval process, but it's also sparked the debate about bringing more practice sessions back. And I think plenty of drivers are in favor of that. I know plenty of fans are in favor of that as well, trying to give these drivers, especially the young up and coming drivers, but also the even more experienced drivers from other categories trying to get used to the stock cars, give them more time to get up to speed. Hopefully NASCAR listens to them and starts bringing back some extended practice sessions for those drivers in particular. But I hope to see Catherine Legg back. I hope to see her on a road course or at a race weekend where we could maybe have more practice, or probably what would be best for her is some more Xfinity starts. If she's that serious about trying to make this stock car chapter of her career work, that's probably that, or even trucks, or even ARCA, like she raced at Daytona, I think would be a good place for her to get some more experience. And then hopefully she could be welcomed back into the Cup Series under slightly better circumstances, rather than just having a week and a half to prepare for her debut at a short track. So well done to BJ McLeod for that as well. And that is going to be our show for this evening. So thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, maybe even this afternoon. We'll see when we get this up. If you're watching the F1 action, it's another race over in Asia. So the time commitment is going to be big for us here in the United States for sure. But we'll see you either tomorrow or later this afternoon, depending on when you're watching this, for Grid Live pre-race. And then Sunday, we'll have Grid Live wrap-up, a busy show with 9 races all across the series that we cover here on this channel, condensed into one show. I will be back on Monday with Grid Encore with Brandon Crossland. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Of course, Grid Tonight back Wednesday. And then Thursday, we'll have our NASCAR preview again, just like we have been for the last several weeks. And then we'll be right back here again next Friday with another episode of Women in Motorsport to recap what we see this weekend in F1 Academy. Be sure to follow us on all our social media platforms, X/Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, whatever microblogging platform you're on these days. And then we're also on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Grid Network TV. You can find us anywhere. Most importantly, subscribe to us right here on the YouTube channel. And if you really liked what you saw this evening, you want to consider joining our Patreon investors. Join Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew in helping us continue to expand our coverage here at the Grid Network throughout 2025 and beyond. Or if you'd rather make a one-time contribution instead, you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below, or tip us on YouTube through Super Chat or Super Thanks as well. For Isha Bajwa, for Emily Sharp, I'm Ben Schneider. Thank you all so much for watching. Enjoy F1 Academy. We'll see you next week.